They say a person that speaks 4 languages is quadrilingual. If you speak 3 languages, you're trilingual. 2 languages, bilingual. And if you speak 1 language, you're an American. I do speak 2 languages, but it's German, however, and so I wish it were Norwegian. I'm very happy to be here today. Appreciate the invitation. Glad that my wife could join me. She is a great pianist. She's always played a lot of Grieg, and so she thinks she has died and gone to heaven. My good friend Doug Rekta was with us in Salt Lake City with the 2002 Olympics, and I certainly learned a lot from him in terms of the globalization of this issue. And that was brought to me very forcefully about a month ago. I think the 2 exports that keep the United States afloat are tobacco. Thank you for smoking our Marlboros. And number 2 would be Hollywood, our entertainment industry, the stupid television shows we make in the movies. And my children wanted to see the movie Spider-Man 2. And my wife had not seen Spider-Man 1, so we got the video to watch it. And there's a scene where Spider-Man is swinging through New York City and he lands on top of a beer truck. And it's a Carlsberg beer truck. Now, I had never heard of that brand until Doug Rekta came over and talked about Carlsberg and all of their sports marketing. But I have to believe that was not put in the movie to increase the American market share as much as knowing that we export our movies everywhere and it is part of a global strategy for them. And so we truly are connected in a number of ways. Also from Doug, I learned of the organization Alcocut and the idea that there were 8 alcohol-free zones or situational absence areas. One of those being sports. And 5 articulate reasons in the Alcocut documents of why we should have sports free for children. Last Saturday, I was watching a college football game, my university play, and I had my 13-year-old son. Today's game is sponsored by Budweiser. It's game time, so grab a Bud Light. Just the connection. Anytime there's sports, it's a time for alcohol consumption. Now, this is nothing new. If you went back to the 1870s, one of the tavern owners in St. Louis, Missouri, noticed that every time the St. Louis Browns baseball team played, he just did very good business. It just seemed to go together. And so he had the great idea of, why don't I take the tavern, the pub, to the stadium, which he did and made a fortune. The second man from the right is August Busch, Anheuser-Busch. This is 1953 when he bought the St. Louis Cardinals. He promised this is done not for any marketing of the company product, but just to further the cause of baseball. Now, when I'm teaching our young boys how to play baseball, we have a phrase, keep your eye on the ball. Anheuser-Busch has been so successful with sports marketing because they have kept one eye on the ball and the other one on the bottle and have done just so very, very well. In 1970, the number 7 beer company in the United States was Miller. They started a massive television advertising campaign featuring former athletes, and as a result of that, by 1977, they were the number 2 beer company in the United States. Anheuser-Busch became very concerned, and they launched an even larger sports marketing campaign, almost all of it on television, and they have just been extremely successful with their endeavors. A quote from a Canadian author in terms of just, it's all types of sport. Anything that moves, if it's a pseudo sport, there is alcohol, beer sponsorship of those kind of activities. As we talk about alcohol marketing in sports, there are really 3 levels. One is a uniquely American problem, I believe. Collegiate sports marketing, alcohol, the Olympics and alcohol, and then professional sports. In sports, we talk about you win some, you lose some, and today I'd like to talk about some losses, particularly the 2002 Winter Olympic Games in Salt Lake City. I consider that a loss for the public health alcohol control community. We're having a success in trying to eliminate sports marketing or alcohol marketing in collegiate sports as a success, and then maybe analyze some of the reasons why we are doing well. So to talk about Salt Lake City, 2002, first of all, it took a lot of money, bribery, to get that into Salt Lake City. It's becoming more and more expensive. We did get it there, but this was a unique situation because Utah is very different. It is predominantly members of the Mormon Church, which is an abstinent culture. 70% of the people who live in that state are Mormons. They don't drink, they don't smoke. Utah has the lowest alcohol consumption, tobacco consumption in the United States by far. As you go there as a tourist, this is one of the most popular t-shirts you can buy, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow you may be in Utah. Critics like to say that our leading cause of death is boredom. We're just dying like flies from boredom. But we were successful in getting the Winter Olympics, and in sports we talk about home field advantage, home court advantage. And in the alcohol control movement, I think internationally we thought maybe this is our chance. We're taking the Olympics into an area where there are much more restrictive policies. It's not a dry culture. You can buy as much alcohol at the state liquor store, but it's a state monopoly like 18 other states, more restrictive in terms of bars, restaurants, and so forth. Maybe this is our chance to make the Winter Olympics alcohol-free as has been tobacco-free. Well, that was not the case. Anheuser-Busch flexed its muscles, showed the money, and they were very sensitive in the original negotiations. We will be careful not to offend the local culture. This is on their stationery, and this is talking about a hockey game called Bubble Boys. It would be part of the the activities they would provide for the public. It's a mechanical hockey game. Dag Rekva and I played, I think Norway won 5-2. But a very fun game. The bottom line to this letter says, the bubble zone is free of charge and all attendees must be 21 years of age, the legal drinking age. As you went to the Bubble Boy zone, as you'll see in a video, there's a sign that said when you play, at least 2 players must be 21, and then you get inside for the game, and as you will see, nobody's 21. It looked really good in paper, so many things they said, but it just didn't turn out to be true. This was we found to be a very offensive document written by Anheuser-Busch. Again, once they got the contract, the rules changed, and you had statements such as this, that we are going to turn this city upside down, hide the women and children, here we come. So some mixed messages from the 2002 Winter Olympic Games. This is a poster from our Center for Disease Control. Use this as a great opportunity to do a smoking program for youth, because youth and sports, the Olympics, they go together. So the alcohol advertising. That's the poster. A mixed message in terms of youth. We tell kids this is something that's risky, and yet we have very fun things for them to do. This is Budweiser basketball hoop at Bud World. We tell youth this is for adults only, and yet we reach them with advertising. This is a Budweiser magician, again, at Bud World. Another mixed message would be the following. We don't allow tobacco sponsorship, but we do allow beer sponsorship. But we don't allow hard liquor sponsorship, but this is Captain Morgan Rum, who was the official sponsor of the U.S. ski and snowboard team. And so it must be very difficult to be a child to make sense out of all of the things we do as adults. We tell our children just say no, and then we create an environment that encourages them to say yes. We have no alcohol billboards in Utah by policy prior to the Olympics. We are very proud of that. It's wonderful to come to Norway and not see billboards. Do you know how good you have it here? Bravo. Well, we have no alcohol billboards until the Olympics, and then we not only got the billboards. This is a billboard that drives around and around and around. We had 4 or 5 of those, and so it was a change of rules. Perhaps the biggest mixed message came from Jimmy Shea, the American who won the skeleton. Now, if you watch, how many of you saw the opening ceremonies where the athletes marched into the stadium at the Olympics? Well, this was going to be a big story because his father was Olympian and his grandfather, I think age 91, was Olympian. And this was going to be the first 3 generational, they were to come in leading the American contingent. Well, a month before the Olympic ceremonies, his grandfather was killed in a drunk driving accident. Jimmy Shea was the guy who took the oath in behalf of all Olympic athletes that this will be sport, drug-free Olympics, certainly not talking about alcohol as being one of those drugs. He won the gold medal, and talking to individuals who were on the award stand when they presented the gold medal, he was high octane. He was very much under the influence when he received his medal. He went back to the high school where he was a hero and made the statement, I'm not telling you guys don't drink, because I sure drank a lot when I was in high school. Just don't get killed. What a message. Dag Rekva has a picture of Jimmy Shea on top of the Budweiser wagon with a banner that says, Go USA on one side, and on the flip side, it is Budweiser. And so, incredible mixed messages. He had his grandfather's picture inside his helmet as he went down the course, mixed messages. I'd like to take a second now and look at some video footage of Bud World. Now, it's significant they didn't call this Anheuser-Busch World, the corporation. They called it Bud World, and once you get inside, it's all called Bud World Party. And so if we can figure out how to do this, we're going to look at some video. We were lucky. It could have been much worse than that. This was the second to last day of the Winter Olympics, and they decided not to reopen Bud World. They say that was the decision of Anheuser-Busch. There was really pressure put on by the IOC, by the city, saying this was too scary, we're going to shut this down. Just two images. As you saw the large world globe in Bud World, it was the focal point, and all the parents would take their children and have pictures taken in front of the globe. As I developed the picture of my son, I saw a little sign next to the globe that says, "Please do not touch our globe." Well, I would be very happy to compromise with the Anheuser-Busch Corporation and not touch their globe if they would keep their hands out of the world of my children and the things that mean so much to them, such as sports. You saw the Budweiser horses, beautiful animals that come marching by proudly. When they go by, they poop on the street, and somebody else, it's not the guy who drives the wagon who has to clean those up, but someone else does. And it's a good analogy of how we felt in Salt Lake City in terms of change of the environment that's taking place because of that. In terms of some issues, things we learned from the 2002 Olympics. One is that the industry does use major sporting events. Doug would say that it doesn't matter where a city is or culture in terms of on the continuum of how liberal your alcohol policies are. Wherever you are, they will come and say, we've got to loosen it up and make it more hospitable so you are being a good host. Number two, the initial statements we got were contradicted later with practices. The level of advertising far exceeded anything we had imagined, and that we can't rely on the sports industry to do the work. They are too far compromised in our culture to be the key players. I want to shift now and just talk about, well, one fifth lesson is we also learned that nobody dominates winter sports like the Norwegians. And you are the shining example of a culture that can be dominant in sports, but you do it without that alcohol connection. And so bravo to you. Please never change. Yes. Some comments about alcohol advertising and collegiate sports, which is a problem unique to us. The alcohol industry spends about $58 million on television advertising for college sports. And a recent book called Beer and Circus, read the subtitle, How Big Time College Sports is Crippling Undergraduate Education. The circus is the huge sports connection. At my university, the athletic department's budget is $20 million. At larger universities, it is $50 million to run their sports program. It is big business. Big alcohol is very much involved. It should be one of the alcohol-free zones. Education. Correlations would show for every drink a student takes, they spend about 15 minutes less studying. If you're drinking 20 drinks a week, we're talking about 5 hours less of study. When Doug was in Utah, he took some drives in the mountains, and you would see signs about deer crossing, careful. These were the signs we should put outside of American universities. Since 1985, a Harvard researcher, Henry Wexler, has been studying the consumption patterns of American college students, quantifying those, and has created a lot of press. College students drink differently than their peers not in college, drink more binge drinking. In terms of the numbers of problems related to that, we're just talking about huge numbers. 4 students a day would be dying from some alcohol-related type problems. If you were to poll university presidents and say, what is your biggest problem with students, they would say, without a doubt, it's the alcohol consumption problems. Those are my biggest worries and concerns. The high-risk groups from the Wexler surveys would be the following. Male students, first-year students, fraternity and sorority members. I don't know if you have any equivalent in Norwegian society. In German, Fechtverein, the fencing unions, it's the clubs, the organizations. They originally were for the purpose of studying, and now it's become much more an issue of just a place to party. Athletes would be high risk, much higher use rates, and also fans of sporting events tend to consume much more alcohol than the rest of the students. Again, the numbers of students who are athletes and fans, much, much higher to be binge drinkers than others. The fraternities is really just shocking, is no other word. The average male student from the surveys in the United States, 7.5 drinks a week. The average fraternity member would be 20.3. The fraternity houses are mansions, homes off campus. They have 2 or 3 Greek letters on top. The story is told of a new student that says, what are those funny letters? Well, those are Greek letters. Well, what do they say? This one says bar, this one says pub, this one says tavern. Is very appropriate in terms of what it actually means. The surveys would indicate it's our big school with the big sport programs that particularly have the biggest problems with alcohol consumption. An example would be Kansas State University. 92% of undergraduates drink, 60% are binge drinkers, 40% would report passing out from their alcohol consumption. Look at these numbers. This shows within 2 miles, 3 kilometers of the campus how many alcohol outlets there are, bars, taverns, liquor stores, some of these drive-through places where you don't even need to get out of your car. This is a prescription for a major problem in terms of the saturation. Now, when you have 185, Florida State University rated the #1 party school a couple of years ago, when you have 185 alcohol outlets within 3 kilometers of campus, they have to compete against each other to get the students. And so these are some lines from 35% of all the advertising in student newspapers come from the alcohol locals, not so much the national, but the local bars. These are some of the lines from some ads in college newspapers. Friday night bladderbuster specials. This is a place where you can still get hammered cheap, lose those midweek blues, get over hump night. Wednesday is hump night. The week is going downhill. And so also they would have cover charges. You come into the tavern, it's going to be a $6 cover charge, and then a pitcher, not a glass, but a pitcher of beer, then it'll be 2 cents. The Wexler data would indicate students who report going to the all-you-can-drink type places drink about 2 drinks a week more than students who do not do that. This is a quote from a professor at Florida State University. The only time to teach a regular undergraduate class at this school is Wednesday early afternoon. Students here stretch the party weekend into Tuesdays and begin again late Wednesday afternoon. Because they sleep late every day, the only window of opportunity to catch them alert is on Wednesday early afternoon. That's when I schedule my main lectures. But many students still fall asleep in them, and some never do show up. We have a problem with higher education and alcohol consumption. One of our leadership groups, the Center for Science and the Public Interest, is taking this on, and I think we are having some success with the program, Time to End Alcohol Marketing in Sports. They have 12 priorities. I'm only going to share one, and it's the issue of getting the television athletic events for colleges off the air. There's a brochure in the back of the room. I hope you can pick one up and read about their activities. That's getting some success. A number of universities are signing on board. Just some number of statistics that show how much. Look at the bottom two. 29% of kids say they are diehard fans of the National Basketball Association, compared with only 14% of adults. The bottom one, according to the NFL National Football League Senior Communications Director, among our most avid fans, 69% said they were fans of the NFL by the time they were 12 years of age. We have a problem of celebratory riots, and it's not just if you win or you lose. 2 years ago, the University of Maryland beat the University of Indiana. Both schools riot, so it could be called celebratory, but it's also mourning or whatever occasion, just to party hardy and have no concern for that. When American students come to Norway, do they tend to wear their sweatshirts, their gear, like this, the universities they come from? Yes, no? Okay, I am a proud graduate of the Ohio State University in Ohio. Now, this is really important. 2 years ago, they had a perfect season if they could beat their arch rival, the University of Michigan, and they would go to the national championship. They played the game. We won, and I want to show you just 3 minutes of what happened in Columbus, Ohio. This is a quote from one of the police directors of Purdue University. He said, "What we pray for on a game day is a weather like we're seeing outside, cold weather and lots of rain. We've got to have a better plan than just hoping for cold weather and rain." Now, the focus of this campaign has been on March Madness. Of the $58 million that is spent advertising college alcohol and college sports, 28 of the 58 is spent in 1 month. This is when we have the basketball tournament. Out of 300 teams, 64 go into the national tournament. It is called March Madness. It dominates the thoughts of a lot of us at that time. This is an ad from a Coors. It shows you how you party when you consume. Get on the county website and you can get very good pictures of that. So this has been the focus to this particular month, March Madness. More money is spent on advertising in March Madness than on the Super Bowl, all our college football games, that's about 20 games, Monday Night Football, which happens every Monday night, and all the baseball World Series combined. As March Madness unfolds, viewers are inundated with beer commercials after beer commercials during the breaks. The ads negatively commercialize athletic events to the detriment of youth and work against what college athletic events are intended to embody: skill, athleticism, hard work, and discipline. Statement from George Hacker of how many young people are watching my children, being some of those, absolutely enjoying it. We've got a problem. The organization that regulates college athletics is the NCAA, the National Collegiate Athletic Association. They espouse high ideals of character, drug-free sports, clean play, and we've got a mixed message here. A good comment. How can they say they are trying to discourage underage drinking when at the same time they are taking megabucks from the industry? Tom Osborne, the quote here is a former football coach, probably the most famous college football coach, who's now a representative in Congress, and just saying we are facing an uphill battle unless we change this culture and get rid of the saturation of advertising during collegiate sports. He also said if aspirin were the leading cause of death on college campuses, do you think chancellors, presidents, and trustees would allow aspirin commercials on basketball and football telecasts? They wouldn't, not for a minute. There are now 220 universities who've signed on this voluntary ban. Ohio State was the first one to sign on for obvious reasons from their embarrassment. 170 national organizations. On the website you can see day by day how many new universities have signed on. We've got something positive happening, and we will have some change from this. Just now, factors contributing to success of the generation of this campaign would be the following. Number one, the collection of data, Dr. Wexler, for example, who are quantifying the problem and making it just very clear we indeed have a major problem. You can't deny it after looking at the pictures. Number two, having a clear blueprint for success. This is the Bible in alcohol control in the United States for the next decade. A few years ago, Congress was funding the war on drugs. The alcohol industry got them to exclude alcohol as part of that effort. But they said, okay, we will let the National Academies of Science and the National Institutes of Health do a report on what, don't preach to us, don't give us propaganda, what does science say in terms of prevention of alcohol policies? And so this report is creating a lot of stir. In that report, they would say one of the most important things we have done is the legal age of 21 years. In the 1970s, the voting age was 21, and then people said, listen, if you can, they took it down to 18. If you can vote at 18, if you can serve in the military, die for your country, you ought to be able to drink. And so many states took the drinking age down to 18. Immediately, youth consumption went up along with alcohol problems, drinking, and driving. So we had a major experiment, some states going up, some states going down. With great affinity, we would say that this is the most important thing we have done. 20,000 deaths would be the analysis of how many lives have been saved by having the 21-year age. Factor number three, we are studying public opinion regarding these policies. Just quickly, this one basically says that Americans value sports and the things that it should be teaching kids. We don't want to get rid of the sports. Number two, the idea that people believe that it is inappropriate to reach children and that they are reaching children with alcohol ads. The third category would be the idea that this is a major, serious problem for colleges. 93% says underage binge drinking is a serious problem, so there's great consensus. Most importantly, then, would be these numbers that say they favor effective alcohol control policies. And so public opinion is in our favor to do something about the problems you have just seen. Now, how would those students vote that you just saw in terms of supporting those alcohol policies? I hope you don't believe that what you saw, these were representative of all the students at the Ohio State University or any institution in the United States. Even students at the universities would favor cracking down and getting tougher, more restrictive in terms of alcohol policies. And so the campaign of asking our representatives as they run for office, what is your stance? What do you say in terms of alcohol policies? If you have a football game, a lot of strategy. If you have the game plan of the opposing team, it would be a major advantage. There is an organization, CAMI, the Center for Alcohol Marketing and Youth, that has paid the major dollars to get the report, the marketing data, to know who reads which magazines, who watches which shows, and so we can basically see it from the perspective of the alcohol industry and have great data now to show they indeed do have kids in the cross sites they are targeting youth. Having the media give attention to these issues we just talked about, that's important. USA Today, more and more coverage in the lay press showing this is a problem, people feel strongly about solving this. Strategic leadership such as activists and individuals. Creation of local coalitions. Just a comment on this. I'm not a cardiologist, but I'm told that if you're healthy, your heart rate looks like this. This is called, what's the word in Norwegian? Fibrillation is what we call this. And this is dead. This is the U.S. Olympic basketball team looks like this. I am told that the heart is working just as hard on number 2 as it is in 1. The problem is each individual heart cell is contracting on its own. And so the way you solve that, you get the defibrillator, you put it on all clear, and you zap it and get it working together. And that's the purpose of coalitions, is public opinion is there. People feel strongly, but it's how do we defibrillate, zap the process, and get it working. That is what ACTIS is all about. Professional and public awareness. Many of the things that you were saying, that it's both as professionals and the public realize we can't just solve this with education. Environmental changes, policy have to be part of the equation. I teach students who want to be health educators, and they are learning. There's one kind of health education called micro health education, where we talk to you about your body, your decisions. The more important part is macro health education, where we teach them how to deal with society, about what are the rules that we should have in alcohol policies. 2 words, and or. Or, is that how you say and in Norwegian? If we don't know what we're doing, we ask ourselves the question, should we do this, or should we do this, or should we do that? Once we have our act together, we know that effective policy is doing this, and this treatment, prevention, all the way across the spectrum. It'll take every bit of that. And then diffusion of success stories, where you have countries where you have teams who have been successful at kicking alcohol out of sponsorship. They have not lost the bottom line. They are still making money, fans still come, and so sharing those success stories is very important. The experience of tobacco control, where a large problem has been addressed, gives us some confidence that we can do this also with alcohol control. And then the last factor would be just the cost of doing business as usual. We can't afford to keep doing that. It's a quote from Anheuser-Busch. We have to deal with real-world revenue issues here. We're losing money. Quick story. This is my son. He also runs for a university team. His first year, he was the fastest first-year student in the 1,500 meters in the United States. I saw him compete last week in cross-country against one of the teams is the University of Wyoming. 3 years ago, 8 students were coming back from partying in Colorado. Another student who was a rodeo team member was coming in a truck, hit it. All 8 were killed, 7 instantly, the rest, the other individual later. Those are real world issues that we need to deal with. In conclusion, can I share 2 minutes of a poem, 1 minute of a poem? I salute you for your excellent mental health and for the success you've had in Norway. There's a great British poem on alcohol policy that talks about when you go to a mental hospital, how can you tell that people can be let out, that they are well? And the poem says, well, we have a very simple test. We have a big bucket of water, a trough, and we fill it up with water from a faucet. We turn the tap on so that soon the trough would overflow, and then we bring the patient to it, and to him we plainly show we want the water emptied from the overflowing trough, and then we hand to him the ladle, and the rest is plain enough. For if he's still demented, he keeps ladling away, but he leaves the tap still running, as it would do all the day. And on he ladles without the least effect. As fast as he can ladle out, the tap flows in unchecked. But if he has his senses, he knows what to do, of course. He puts an end to the fly by stopping at the source. Methinks this simple incident conveys to me and you a lesson which should teach us all just what we ought to do. And then the author talks about British alcohol policy, but it is a wonderful analogy. Norway is getting pressure to open up the tap. Be strong, be firm. You are a light to so many in the world. Best wishes to you in your very important work. Thank you very much.